Last year, the Mets had a team payroll of $353 million, $60 million more than the second place Yankees, and close to $90 million more than the third place Padres. These teams all had that in common, but whereas the Yankees and Padres both finished with more wins than losses, the Mets could not make that happen. Despite spending over $350 million on a roster of 26 players, the Mets won just 75 games and fell well short of the playoffs. How could that possibly happen when teams like the Orioles and the Rays both made the playoffs while operating on payrolls that were less than $80 million? Before I get into the answer to that question, it would make me really happy if you could like this video and subscribe, as it helps out my channel a ton. Thank you. So the 2022 Mets won over 100 games in their most successful regular season since the 1980s. But after a deflating wildcard round loss to those Padres mentioned earlier, it was clear that the Mets would need to add some new players in order to get over the hump and make it to the World Series for the first time since 2015, and win it all for the first time since 1986, when they beat the Red Sox. So how did they address those issues? First, they focused on signing some starting pitching. On December 17th, they inked Japanese pitcher Kodai Senga to a 5-year deal worth $15 million per season. In 11 seasons in Nippon professional baseball, Senga compiled a 2.59 ERA and just under 1,100 innings pitched to go along with a strikeout to walk ratio of 3.02, which is well above average for MLB standards. But he was by no means the biggest piece added that offseason, as the Mets also signed veteran right-handed pitcher Justin Verlander to a 2-year deal worth well over $40 million per season. It made him one of the highest paid players in Major League Baseball and United States professional sports in general. And he definitely had the stats and reputation to back it up. 3 Cy Young Awards, 1 MVP award, a ton of All-Star appearances, and well over 3,000 innings pitched in his career, with an elite ERA of right around 3.2. The Mets had gone out and addressed starting pitching. On the offensive side of the ball, however, they didn't really do all that much, and ultimately this is what caused them to disappoint in my opinion. Nonetheless, expectations were through the roof for the 2023 Mets and what looked to be a middling division, at least towards the bottom, with teams like the Nationals and the Marlins. But just a couple of weeks before opening day, their closer Edwin Diaz went down with a knee injury he got while celebrating a win during the World Baseball Classic. This was an extremely tough pill to swallow, as Diaz was one of the best closers in the league in 2022, maybe even the very best. Through April 21st, the Mets had jumped out to a 14-7 record, seemingly picking up right where they left off in 2022. But what immediately followed was an agonizing stretch through mid-May, where they went just 6-16, a winning percentage of less than 30%. Sitting at 20-23 through the first 43 games of the season, it was clear that the Mets were pretty average in both hitting and pitching, having guys who were on fire and guys who were ice cold, while also having a ton of players playing at an average level. 20-23 is great for a team like the A's, who don't expect to compete, but for the Mets in their World Series window, it was obviously unacceptable. But a 9-4 stretch to end May was just what was needed. However, after that, it really all started to go downhill in June, when the Mets won 7 games, next to 19 losses in the month, bringing them 10 games below 500, nearly halfway through the season. They were already 18 games behind the division-leading Braves, with basically no hope of catching up. Even after a pretty good month of July, they gained literally 1/2 game on the Braves, and now it really looked like the team was cooked. On the trade deadline, they admitted it when they became sellers, trading a ton of impact players. First, they traded away Justin Verlander for 2 great prospects from the Astros. Then, they traded Max Scherzer to the Rangers for another good prospect. Those were the 2 big moves, and they also made others as well. From that day until the last day of the season, the Mets went 25-32, capping off possibly the most disappointing season in Major League Baseball history. So what went wrong? The offense completely fell off for a start. They struck out more, didn't hit for much contact, and were a mess with runners in scoring position when they did have them. Starling Marte and Jeff McNeil both had mediocre or bad seasons after great years in 2022. Young players didn't play very well, and of course there were a lot of injuries. On the pitching side, Kodai Senga was fantastic in his first MLB season, but his great year meant almost nothing, as the pitching also fell off. They walked a ton of guys and didn't strike out a ton of guys, allowed more hits, home runs, and basically just about everything when compared to the 2022 staff. Despite having an extremely high payroll, the highest in professional baseball history to be exact, the Mets didn't win the division, didn't make the playoffs, didn't finish above 500, and were pretty close to coming in last in their division, and would have if they were in the American League East and National League West. So that's it, and thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thank you.